Oil, they say, represents the spirits of the dead, which is so true. These are organisms that have died. And they say, if you ask it for power, and it will give you power, you sacrifice your children in return. And that is exactly what we are doing today. We are poisoning our atmosphere. We are poisoning and reducing the chances of our children to lead a healthy life into the future. Our children will suffer from emphysemas, cancers, their lives will be shortened, their quality of life will be destroyed, because today we choose to poison their atmosphere today for them. We are responsible, and until we seriously take our responsibilities on, we will continue to poison our children into the future. Situation now is such that, look at my finger here. The thumb is the money power, the corporations. They're the strongest. The index finger is the state or the government. You know who's in charge. And that's a reality. And civil society, in terms of power, is way down here, the baby finger. This is the power structure at the moment. We have to change this power structure in order to combat climate change and biodiversity losses. We have to transform this by turning this around to be like this. So there's equal and respect as partners of development and livelihood on the same planet. So unless we can turn this structure around, we will not be able to combat climate change. I think at this point most governments are quite useless. They have been manipulated by the corporates, and they join hands with the corporates, exploit nature and the human generations. We created the corporates, and their mandate is profit, maximize profit. So we created something that is so one-track minded and allow that monster to control us. I think we have a very weak mind. We have to get out of this.
I was really shocked that for the first time I heard all the science at one time. So you go from one meeting to another meeting to another meeting, and every time they explained what could happen to the planet, what was happening to the planet, it was much worse than the mainstream media had explained. And they were not, these were scientists, they were not trying to sell me something. They were just trying to explain. And then you realize, oh, we've misunderstood. This is now, and actually almost too late, that we've left things very late in this process. And then you begin to feel a bit depressed and think, oh my goodness, how can you stop ice sheets from melting and oceans from rising and rain from shifting and drought from coming and wars from coming? And it's really like the apocalypse, this whole story. And you get more depressed. And then you watch the government people, and they behave like little children sometimes in the meeting, and you think, who put these people in charge? I know their job is difficult, but what a strange behavior. And there was a priest from Tokyo, a Roman Catholic priest, Father John Brinkman, and he was saying, climate change is really about human behavior. It's how we behave has created the situation. So that means it's a moral and ethical issue. It is a political, economic and social issue, but it's about morality. It's about our heart and what we want and what we think about each other. Do we love each other or not? Do we love ourselves or not? Do we love the next generation, or we want everything for ourselves? And then he also said, that when a time of great difficulty comes, people may not go to church or mosque or temple on a regular basis, but when the heavy rains come or there's not enough food, that's where they're going to go. People will turn to God, they'll turn to their faith, and they'll look for some guidance. He said the religious sector has to be ready, and the religious sector has to wake up from its sleep. It's been sleeping for too long, and come forward and say, this is good human behavior, and this is wrong, and this is how we can change. And change is possible if you have faith, if you believe that it's worth it. And people don't like the word sacrifice, but somebody has to sacrifice in this process. The way we've designed things is not possible. So you have to give up. But you know from our beliefs that actually sometimes when you give up the most precious thing, first of all, you're free. So what you thought you really, really wanted actually turned out not to be important. You know, in a calamity, everything that's in your house. We had very big fires in Cape Town in 2000, and I saw this for the first time. You think that the house matters, you think that the nice piece of furniture matters, but when the house is going to burn to the ground in the next 15 minutes, all I wanted to say was the pictures. You know, you just want some memories, and if you can have that, and make sure the dogs are safe, and but the rest of the material things, they will go, because it's only material things. So sometimes to give up lightens the heart, and also you have more compassion for others. So in this climate change, there's also a window for the opening of the human heart, for the awakening of their mind. That it's not just doom and gloom, it's an opportunity, a faith opportunity.
We know why we are faced with such a critical situation in the world, including the climate change. If we reduce this whole thing into some simple language which the common man can understand, I would say that we have to bring about a change in our consciousness, the way we think. Democracy is representative government, and our representatives who made governments have failed. Therefore, no longer representative government is equal to democracy. So I suggested that there should be highly decentralized, democratic, participatory, direct governance, so that in the world there can be what you call community self-government. They can be brought together in a network so that horizontally the whole nation can be together. Number two, the whole economy is today based on whatever evils we have, greed, hatred. So we have to change this economic system, the financial arrangements, the banking system, all that. There again, the entire economic power is controlled by a few people in the world, and they control the governments. So we have to think of an alternative system of economy based on satisfaction of our basic needs, secondary needs, tertiary needs, like that, starting from bottom up. If we have a will, after all, Buddha taught us mind is supreme. So if we have the mind, we can change it. I am very hopeful.
In a way, the ancient cultures were more wiser about how to live in harmony with nature and not to exploit it the way we are doing this in our times. And I think there is this connection needs to be relearned by the society of today, and this needs to be implanted in our lives and not just read about in scientific magazines, but connecting the people with ancient religious texts and see that this has been already been told, said, lived by, and this is something that is a tradition, that is a wisdom that we need to go back and implement it in our life together.
I live in a community with 83 people together, including 25 children at the foot of Mount Fuji, and we are doing organic farming together. And quite often people are just focusing on physical features. When we say eco-village, then that's like mud brick houses or, straw bale houses and with solar panels. And people think, oh, that's great. I'm an eco person, right? But that becomes ego person, not eco, ego. Just, they are sometimes presenting the way they want to look eco-friendly person. And not all of them, of course. So all those features are also important, but in the same, inner eco, harmonious way of life is also important. And they are missing that part. So when conflict comes out, then they don't have the way to solve it, then all those communities just collapse. And that's really pity. Eco-village has to have a spirituality which connect to the Great Spirit and connect to other people's heart-to-heart communication, and that's create happy society and happy life. And not only for human beings, but for other creatures on this planet.
I believe in the power of the youth, because when you say the youth are crazy, the youth are, they have too much energy to do anything worthwhile. It's in that energy, it's in that craziness where we thrive. So let's take the youth and their craziness and use it to change the climate, to help advocate for climate change issues, to help push forward what we're trying to change for our own local environment. If we do that, then only then can we get change. Because if we segment everyone and have sectors for every group, we have mothers, we have children, we have youth, we have old people, it doesn't make sense. We need to all come together, because climate change does not affect one group and leave the other. It cuts across the board. And when we engage the youth, we'll start the process, because we are the future we want. We are the future, we are the present, and you can only use us to set up a present that will not affect the future in a negative manner.
In this world now, we are trapped into a system called the economic system. The power of the dark uses the economic system to justify their actions and activities. The power of the dark then capitalizes on the economic system to give them the power, because money has now become the symbol by which power is given and translated. If we look at the power of the light, and as I said, just as an example, if you look at photosynthesis, what is photosynthesis? It is what gives us the oxygen we breathe. It's what cleans the water that we drink. It's what gives us the food that we eat. That is our life support system. Right? Photosynthesis. Now, that is the power of the light. In my calculations, I find that the total photosynthetic mass of the planet, and we have now calculated it, if we take that and we look at the price that we are paying today to control climate change, the money we are spending, and we say one assumption is humanity, us, we will be willing to give the same amount of money to breathe and eat and have water as we would to control climate change. If we are willing to do that, then photosynthetic biomass is worth $1.35 a kilogram. At $1.35 a kilogram, if you look at this stuff, rural people can grow this stuff and be paid to live comfortably. They do not have to take a fruit or take a bean to sell outside to a foreign market or any market. All they have to do is grow photosynthetic biomass. And photosynthetic biomass keeps value only as long as it is living. If you pluck the leaf, no value. If it's living on the tree, value. So then we are paying our rural population to maintain living green mass. That is the photosynthetic biomass, that is the life support system that helps all the people in the cities to breathe, to get fresh water, to eat. Then everything changes. The urban-rural relations change. Money flows from the urban sector to the rural sector, not the other way. We don't make the rural sector poor, the rural sector becomes rich, but they don't become rich by burning fossil fuel. They become rich by looking after and improving the life support system of this planet. So this is how we can move away. If we do this one move, if at the United Nations we have these 3 words in their lexicon, the value of photosynthetic biomass. That's all. We need the United Nations to put a value on photosynthetic biomass. Today there's not 1 cent value to it. If we do that, we will change the way the planet looks. We will reverse and we will change the direction that we are going now.
The antidote to what is going on is to love each other more, not less. Not to be more nationalistic or more defensive or more Buddhist, but to be more a sentient being. You know, people can make a lot of noise about the multinational corporations and the fossil fuel industry, and this is true, and this is structural, and this shapes our world, makes it very difficult to negotiate. This is why we're in a deadlock. But there's something that is still more fundamental. It's about the human sense of responsibility and how we love our own family and how we love the neighbor and how we love God or the world. And I believe that if we can, one by one of the 7 billion, wake that up and say that is the light that has to inform our decisions, that you will see leaders changing their positions. So I don't believe this idea that politicians and diplomats all have closed minds. And you see in the UN now, people from some of the